Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Slumbering Sloth Book Nook. A couple of weeks ago, we recorded a couple of episodes live at the Penzance Lit Festival, which was an amazing experience, and we got to speak to lots of amazing people. So we hope you enjoy these special edition episodes. If you'd like to leave us any feedback or any comments, you can do on our YouTube channel, Slumbering Sloth Book Nook, or you can drop me a DM at novelm16 on Twitter. And also you can send me an email at slumberslothbooknook@gmail.com. We hope you enjoy this special series. Thank you. This episode's guest is author Hanna Jameson. You can follow Hanna on Twitter at Hanna_Jameson. Now on with the show. Thank you so much for coming on today, Hanna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. So you're a writer, and this is going to be your fourth novel, is that correct?
Yes, it's my fourth.
Oh, wow. So you've been very busy then, writing.
Kind of, yeah. It's my fourth, and it's my first for Penguin, so it's being marketed as a debut, even though I'm nowhere near a debut.
But well, you're more experienced, that you've got it, so you can just ride that wave.
I call it jaded, like.
Just take it as a compliment, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of your writing, what kicked it all off? What inspired you to start that step into writing?
It was really early for me. I was about 6 or 7 when I decided I was going to be an author. And it was just because I was really into story writing. And I always read. I mean, I was reading way before I started school, and I just kind of never stopped. And I suppose I was just fortunate that, like, all the way into secondary school and college and beyond, and not many people actually told me it was a sort of unrealistic idea, and that it's not generally a career path you can just go into. Because no one told me how hard it was, I just kind of assumed I could do it, which I think played into my favour.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they never say it's a good angle to start with, do they? Be a writer on the side, but you need to do a proper job in the real world. But no, it is my proper job.
Yeah.
Definitely. So when you started your writing, and you've got this love of writing, you want this passion, for getting started, what were the first steps you thought, right, I need to take this seriously, I want to get somewhere with my novel, or I want to start writing? Did you just start throwing words on paper, or did it just sort of come in bits and bobs?
I think I started fairly ambitiously when I was about 13 or 14, and I just started trying to write full-length novels. But that was after doing a lot of what I suppose you would call like fan fiction in your head.
Oh, definitely.
Where like you'd read something or you'd watch something, and I would think, I could write my own version of that. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and then I wrote my first full-length novel when I was 15, which was a crime thriller, and I never sent it to anyone because I was aware it wasn't very good because I was 15. And then I bought the Writers and Artists Yearbook, which I suppose everyone does. And then I tried again. I wrote another novel at 17, which is also a crime thriller. And then that was edited by my English literature teacher at the time, who was really supportive, and is probably a huge part of the reason that I ended up getting published. And that was the novel I worked on, and I ended up just redrafting it for years and years and years. And then I made a deal with myself that I would not go to university straight out of college. I'd give myself 3 years to just write and submit. Everything got rejected. And then ironically, I went to university and was signed within weeks.
That is crazy.
Yeah. It makes no sense even in hindsight. Like, as soon as I gave up trying to do it, it happened.
It always seems to happen in the oddest of ways, though. When I always speak to writers, they're always like, yeah, it just happened like out of the blue. I didn't expect it to happen. Or it goes like the opposite way of how I planned it. It's very rare that it goes in that way.
Yeah. It's never like the straightforward, I submitted and then I got accepted. I don't know, it's always some really roundabout way, like going to an event and meeting someone, which was ultimately how I got mine published. I went to this completely unrelated party, and my boyfriend at the time was so drunk on Black Sambuca that he couldn't stand up. So I kind of took him for a quiet sit down in the corner. And the friend of his that we ended up sat next to works at what is now my literary agency. And we had a 5-minute conversation where she just said, oh, you know, everything's going into Slothpile at the minute, but send it to me and I'll make sure at least someone reads it.
That's great. I mean, it's always to not what you know, it's who you know.
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah. I guess that's why events, like I never went that route, so it happened for me accidentally, but I can see why events where you get to meet agents and publishers, like I think that's a much more sort of practical way to go about it, I think.
Definitely, because I worked at London Book Fair this year, so I did sort of like a bit of part-time work, but then I also went to the event in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the amount of writers now that they let in and just go unleash like all these writers like onto these poor editors that are just like, oh my goodness. But no, it's great experience, like to sort of, you know, go in as a writer to go in and see the different variety of where your book might fit. So you get almost a choice. It's almost like shopping around sometimes. But
I never thought of it like that. I think I'd be terrified to go to London Book Fair.
Yeah, no, it was. I think for a lot of people, it's like it was quite a new thing, and they have like this writers HQ now, which is great because then they editors give advice to writers, which is awesome. So as you said, it's good to network with publishers and, you know, literary agents, because essentially, like, if you want to get the ball rolling, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's what I would recommend. But I think people can tell if you're. I really hate the word networking because it ultimately just means like going to things and being nice to people. I think that makes it. I think if you're really calculating about it would definitely come across. But I think just going places and being nice to people, that's something that probably everyone should be able to do. Yeah,
exactly. So in terms of your writing and your experience, what would your experience, like, advice be for first-time writers? So if anybody wants to start like writing a novel or just like wants to start spinning stuff on paper,
I think the most practical bit of advice I've ever been given, and it sounds deceptively sort of simple and platitudinous, but just get stuff finished. Like, get your project finished. Don't start novel after novel, project after project, write a few chapters and then drop it, because the first few chapters of any project are the easiest. Because at that point you're really inspired, you're driven mostly by novelty and discovering things about characters and stuff. But getting from like the 20,000 word mark to the 70,000 word mark, that's not like inspiration or novelty, that's discipline. And that's something that you have to cultivate, whether whether you're fortunate enough to have like days set aside to write, or whether you have to do it after work, which I did for years. I did it around sort of all kinds of full-time and part-time jobs. And it's that discipline which is going to sort of turn you into a writer in the most sort of proper, legit sense.
Yeah, exactly. As I say, because when people start writing, it isn't their first profession. It's like a side project, isn't it, a lot of the time? So would you say keeping focused on the end goal is quite important whilst you're sort of doing other stuff?
I think you should always have an idea of what you want to do with it. But then if you end up writing a project and you don't want to get it published, I wouldn't say that's a failure.
No.
Because even if you finish something and you decide, I'm not going to do anything with that, it's not quite up to scratch, you can always redraft it at any point in your career. Like, I've gone back to ideas I had like 5 or 6 years ago and redrafted them, and they've ended up being the project that's gone forward. Or I've reworked it as a different genre, which is what I did with my 4th book, which started off as a kind of straightforward murder mystery. I kind of left it for a couple of years, and I added like about 14,000 words or something. And then I added the dystopian end of the world element when I came back to it, and it just kind of came to me like a sudden idea.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, because ideas are everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
They'll come to you at any moment. I mean, mine is always when I'm about to go to bed, and then I'll forget before I write it down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is, it's the worst. I really should be better at doing that, but for ages. I think just as a way of excusing why I don't always carry a notebook around, I told myself, it's like survival of the fittest of ideas. I was like, if it's a really good idea, I'll remember it, and if I forget it, it wasn't that good. But I'm also not convinced that's true, and I think I probably have just forgotten loads of really good ideas because I don't write them down.
Exactly. I mean, I'm doing a creative dissertation this year, and I've started like doing my reading around for my creative dissertation. I'm thinking, getting all these really good ideas, but because it's an adaptation, it's like I've got to try and keep faithful to the original.
Oh, okay.
And then sort of do my own twist on it. So I'm just like, I need to write down every single idea, because then at least I can like back it up in my reflective piece. But I'm just like, I find it really difficult. I'm gonna have to try and balance it.
Well, yeah, like I mean, adaptations are like a whole other thing in themselves, I think. Although, like, I mean, you might have read Circe by now, as I'm sure most people have, but that is one of my favourite adaptations of all time, because she's basically taken one of the oldest kind of myths we have and sort of made the characters feel completely fresh and surprising, and it feels really kind of contemporary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently reading like Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, which is what I'm going to be doing my dissertation sort of adaptation on. So I'm just like trying to see how, I find it a lot easier to see how he does it first before you dive into the myths, because the myths are a little bit more junky than, you know, a writer that's gone and done it. So it's I find it a lot easier to sometimes read other writers for inspiration, because then you can go, okay, this is how they've done it. However, I'm going to use this angle and take this.
Yeah, I think it's good to give yourself like a grounding in what other people have done, so that you then know what you're doing and where your work is kind of situated. In that, because like where else like a writer's going to get inspiration from? It has to be from other writers to some extent.
Yeah, because it's all about you. As a writer, you always need to read other people as well to see if like it's sort of what kind of genre you want to write, and go, okay, I've got my own idea, but I need to look at how other people have done it before me, so I kind of have my own fresh take on it, but how I need to compare my stuff to like go, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
Definitely cool. Okay, so the last question is, what is a book that you've read recently that you'd like to recommend, or anything that you've read in the past couple of months?
Oh, what have I read? I've read so much in the past couple of months, like more than I have done for years, actually. So this is going to be really difficult. I assume this is going to be fiction, like a novel. Or...
Whichever you want to read. You can have like non-fiction, fiction, short stories, anything you'd like.
Oh my god. Okay, I'll do like a fiction and a non-fiction.
Yep, good.
I think my favourite novel I read recently was My Name is Monster by Katie Hale. It's set in sort of a post-apocalyptic Scotland, and it's in the years after a plague has just wiped out like the whole human race. And it's told from the point of view of like one woman who survived because she was working in a seed pod lab in Iceland, and they just basically hold themselves in, and she emerges into a world which everything's empty and everyone's dead. And the whole book is just her kind of walking through what remains of Scotland and through all these villages and looking for food and stuff. And then she meets this child, this tiny like feral child, and decides to raise her as her own. So she like teaches her language and what words mean. And then the second half of the novel is written from the child's perspective, like meeting this woman who decides she's her mother. And it's really dark, it's really melancholic, and it's written in a style that's like prose poetry, but it's so quick to read. You can fly through a chapter in like minutes. They're really short, and so I flew through it in a night easily. So yeah, My Name is Monster by Katie Hale. That was fantastic. Non-fiction, I would recommend To Live Here We Have to Fight, how women led social justice movements in Appalachian social justice movements. I think I got that title wrong, but it's called To Live Here We Have to Fight. And it's by Jessica Wilkerson, who's an amazing academic whose writing I really admire. She's a fantastic writer. And it kind of, it focuses on women's contributions to social justice movements and the way they've been downplayed and the way they've been sidelined. And it's actually about what women got out of being activists through quite a lot of sort of famous sort of activist movements in the 60s and 70s. And I really like that perspective, because I like it when women's stories are kind of brought to front and centre. And it's really, really powerful writing and really powerful stories.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for those recommendations. There'll be probably more to add to the TBR pile that I've already got already. That's great. Well, thank you very much for coming on today, and I say good luck with your talk and everything
Thank you.
Thank you very